Thanks, Russ. Barry, I think this is a nice segue to your question. If you could give yourself a quick introduction, and the question is, what type of challenges do you face as a manufacturer in Northern Nevada? I know you deal with a lot of worldwide logistics, so if you could address that question.
Yes, I'd be happy to. IGT is a prominent manufacturer and operator of casino slot machines in the U.S. and in other countries around the world. And over the last few years in particular, we've seen competition become stronger. We've seen our markets change, especially in the last couple of years. We've seen there be fewer new casino openings, and most of the games that we're finding ourselves selling at this point seem to be replacement units. We're also seeing many of our customers responding to the softness in markets and implementing their own streamlining initiatives. A couple things that were mentioned, and Russ had a couple of points which tie so closely into some of the things that we see and experience at IGT that I'm going to actually mention them as well as I go through just kind of a brief scenario of some of the challenges that we're seeing at IGT. As Russ mentioned, offshoring certainly is a real element that's in front of all of us. Currently, when we build a slot machine, we take about 250 to 350 individual pieces for which we purchase, and we assemble them together to make a complete slot machine for which we then sell to our customers. To do that certainly takes time, but it enables us to offer a customer a very highly configured product which offers a customer any combination of virtually anything that he should ask us to build. In looking at some of the things our customers are asking us, though, they're asking us for things like shorter lead times on the delivery of a game, making the whole business experience easier. They're asking us to reduce costs. They're asking us to do a lot of things which kind of go against the grain of a highly configured, uniquely manufactured game. So to respond to that, some of the things we're actually looking at within our own shop is how do we manufacture a game at a lower cost and with lower infrastructural support costs. We're implementing a few changes on the supply chain side, things like just-in-time inventory receipt with raw materials coming in from our vendors. In fact, Russ's company actually helps us with one of those. We're working with vendor-managed inventory, in which case about 1 out of every $10 that we bring into raw materials is a vendor-owned good, which sits on our floor until we actually induct it into the production process. And we're also looking at packaging. How do we reduce packaging? How do we make packaging more friendly and easier to take things out of the carton and turn them into a slot machine where we can invoice and ask our customer to pay for the bill. So when you look at the existing manufacturing model, we've been catering to every wish of every customer for many years. And in fact, for those of you that have been in Reno for quite some time, you probably know that that's been the secret sauce of IGT's success over the many years. As we look into the future, technology has changed a bit. Customers are more interested in the game content and the player experience as opposed to the hardware. Not to say that the hardware is not important, it's just that the focus now is on the game content. And as we do that, we're having to do two things. We continue to offer the traditional model of offering a customer the greatest of his wishes, but at the same time, we're also trying to figure out what kind of a standardized model can we produce at a more economical price for that section of customers that's interested in buying, in essence, an off-the-shelf type of item. Now, I say that, when you look at some of the things that you see in the gaming industry is very difficult in that everything that we do is very regulated. We have to have a license to build and produce the products that we manufacture. Our customers have to have a license in order to have our products. And all of the jurisdictions have different regulations. They're not all the same. They have different kinds of notification periods and different types of regulatory requirements, even to the point of shipping. When a container leaves our dock in Reno, Nevada, it has to have a seal. And when that particular container arrives at the destination location, that seal is witnessed by the gaming agents who are present to receive the truck. And they compare the serialized seal against what's been noted on the bill of lading by us, and they authenticate that that's the right seal, and then they break the seal and examine all the serial numbers of every single slot machine on the truck as they're taken off of the truck. Now, as I talk about these things, what we're seeing is a tremendous shift in the paradigms as to the way that we handle things within our company. We're looking at how do we consolidate inbound logistics to eliminate or reduce some of the numbers of trips that come into our facility, and we're likewise doing the same thing with outbound shipments. But granted, as I just mentioned, with outbound shipments, there are certain limitations that we have to live with. There have been times where we have shipped as few as 2 games in a single 53-foot truck all the way to Connecticut. I mean, so about imagine the cost per unit for doing that is very sizable. As opposed to being able to load up a truck with, say, 100 games and deliver them to multiple customers in the same trip. So we're working through a number of issues as we try to find the best balance. The best balance with our current business model versus the business model that we think we need to be positioned for in the future, as well as positioning the logistics to support that business model coming into the company and to deliver products to our customers in the most economical way.
Great, wonderful, thank you. Just a reminder, I can't remember, Dan, if you mentioned, but the phone number up at the top of the screen, you can text your questions. If you have a specific question for one of the panelists, just put their name next to it, text to that number, and then Dan is collecting those questions. They'll be asked at the end.
Art, could I do a follow-up question to Barry? Barry,
Sure.
you've obviously seen your business and casinos shift domestic versus international with the opening of Macau and Singapore. Are you getting demand from your customers to actually move your service closer to the customers now outside the U.S.?
When you say service, let me ask for a qualifying question.
Like repair to slot machines, to say send a slot machine from Macau all the way back to Reno, that there would be a service center, let's say in Asia or...
We do have a service center in Asia. In fact, just to comment on that question, there are 2 pieces that really affect the answer to that question. There are certain machines that IGT continues to own, and we operate on a for-fee basis. Those are the ones that you typically know of as the wide area progressive games. And those we typically have a role in maintaining and doing the service on. There are other games, however, which are owned by customers. And those games that are owned by customers are typically handled by the customers for the service. So we'll train customers as to how to service the games. And we do have service centers in places like in the Netherlands, we've got one in Argentina, we've got one in Asia, one in Mexico, Canada. So we've got a fair number of service centers around the world which support the business of IGT. But when you start looking at slot machines and the handling of slot machines, when a slot machine is down, it's very imperative that it be brought online rather quickly, because it's kind of like going to the movies when the projector stops. I mean, people tend to not stay, they tend to leave. And a slot machine's a lot like that. If the entertainment stops, people tend to leave. So the service tends to be very localized.